Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast presented by State Farm. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Thursday evening at the conclusion of the NBA trade deadline. Joining us from TD Garden in Boston, where he's moved all over this week, wherein he also watched the champs get beat by the Anthony Davis-less Mavericks. Here tonight, Tim Bontemps.
Dominating performance from the Mavs, who won by 7, but really were up by 27 most of the second half. And now we're headed home to an interesting scene where MacMahon is. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, joining us from Dallas, Texas, where he's just back from a week and a half on the road, was in Oklahoma City for the deadline, and is now in Dallas, where all eyes are about to turn, is Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. I hear there's a big party planned out there in Victory Plaza. I'm not sure if I'm invited or not, but
well, I think you're invited. I just don't know how the reception will be if you go there.
Don't know if I'd make it out of there, because somehow it's my fault that all my reporting was accurate, and I was still shocked that Luka Doncic got traded.
Yeah, well, I hope cooler heads prevail in all this situation. All right, that's the Mavericks and Luka. We'll talk about that a little later. The prevailing thing about the trade deadline day, there was a number of deals. We'll get to them. Was what didn't happen, which was Kevin Durant stayed put, and he was not happy he was put into trade talks. And I think it's unpredictable what will happen for the next few months because it's the nature of the sport. But I think right now it's reasonable to forecast that Durant will be breaking up with the Suns in the summer. He didn't break up with them today, but it doesn't look good for the long-term forecast because he was really frustrated. And I spent a long time today on the phone with people involved with this situation, people from Miami, people from Golden State, people from Phoenix, other people. And I would just say that the biggest thing Kevin Durant was upset about, I think, was not knowing he was involved in trade talks. And whoever started it, wherever at the stage of Kevin Durant's career he's at, I believe I'm getting into a danger zone talking about what he wants. So I'm going to step back. Generically, a star player of his level, when he gets to this, likes to be involved in trade talks. He likes to, and so that was an issue. And so the thing about it is that the Suns ended up not getting anything. They made one trade today, and it was a salary dump trade, sending Jusuf Nurkic to Charlotte. They didn't improve the roster. And meanwhile, Miami and Golden State made other moves. So the Suns have had some wins in transaction windows recently. They haven't had too many wins on the court, but they've won some transaction windows. They were a big loser in this transaction window, Bontemps, and there's no other way to put it. And life in the second apron is hard.
Yeah, I mean, life in the second apron is hard, but there's lots of other teams that are in the second apron that are doing a lot better than the Suns, and that's because the Suns are paying the price for their sins for the past couple of years since Matt Ishbia bought the team and has sold off just about every asset they had, and in the course of doing so has built a team that's not very good and has nowhere to go. And I think the Suns, if it was me talking to the Suns, if they called me and asked for my opinion, I would spend the next 4 months figuring out the best options that I could get, I guess 5 months till early June, that I could get for Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and I would be trading them both this offseason, and I would be burning this thing to the ground and starting it over, preferably getting my picks back from the Houston Rockets, who've been waiting there to get these guys, one of them at least, and actually build a team, because there is no way that the Phoenix Suns can turn this into a team that can actually be competitive in the Western Conference. This team is a borderline play-in team right now. Kevin Durant is only getting older. They have Brian Dunn's a nice role player. Also, Iguodala's a nice role player. This is not a group that is going to get better over the next couple of years. This is not a group that could compete with the Oklahoma City Thunder, that could compete with the Houston Rockets, that could compete with the Memphis Grizzlies, that can frankly compete with the LA Clippers. Like, they're just not as good as these teams, and they have two get out of jail free cards. One in particular in Devin Booker, one to a lesser extent in Kevin Durant. And they should, because of the way this week went, I think it's a bit of a blessing for them to not get Jimmy Butler, to not go down this road of trying to extend this thing even further. And if they spend the next 4 or 5 months really figuring out what is the absolute maximum we can get our picks back in this draft, get a high-level lottery pick in this draft, and start over, they can actually start to build something. Because they spent 2 years going willy-nilly trying to build this thing on the fly. It's left them with a team that has nowhere to go, no flexibility, no ability to get better, and they now just have to face the reality of the situation they're in. They have to stop digging, and they have to start climbing. And frankly, the only way they can do that, it's not just by trading Kevin Durant. They have to trade both guys, and they have to start over.
I just have to say, Devin Booker, I don't think that they're going to trade Devin Booker. Devin Booker wants to be there.
They should trade Devin Booker. They should trade him.
Devin Booker wants to be there his whole career.
I don't care. I don't care.
So did Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard was 10 toes down in Portland. KG was going to spend his whole career in Minnesota. And then after the fact said, man, I waited way too long. And their only way out is to go through a real rebuilding process because they are the most expensive, mediocre team that we've ever seen. Right? And
yes,
microwave Matt Ishbia has cooked a mediocre meal. That's just what's happened here. Everything's boom, boom, now. I'm the owner. I won a national championship at Michigan State. I know everything. I know how to run a team. Here we go. Boom, I'm getting KD. Bradley Beal. Everything's got to be right now. Quick. And it's been a very quick descent into mediocrity on a team that's got its soul sucked out of it. And you've got 3 max players on that roster. You've alienated 2 of them without being able to move either. I mean, what do you do? And like Booker, look, it's admirable, the loyalty, the desire to have a Kobe-like run. That one franchise thing is awesome when you're on a good team. It's misery when you're in mediocrity. And the time's going to come. Their way out of this thing is to do a real rebuild, to take the route the Houston Rockets had a few absolutely awful years after James Harden, miserable years. And it was part of the plan. You got to go through that, but you have to have your picks to do it. And you got to get a bunch of other picks in the process. And it's that part of it would be the easiest part. It's actually the smartest thing to do, would also be the easiest thing to do. It's call the Houston Rockets, call them back because they've called you about Booker umpteen times and say, hey, we're willing to listen, but it ain't just going to be about our picks. We want a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, I want to be clear about something. I do admire Devin Booker's desire to want to be in Phoenix. And you could say that the Phoenix Suns don't want to trade Devin Booker. What I'm telling you is they need to figure out the only way out is through, to quote Robert Frost. The only thing they can do is Robert Frost, the poet. I'm teaching you. We're going back into the thesaurus today, not the dictionary. The only way out for the Suns.
Poetry in a thesaurus? I thought there were synonyms and stuff.
Listen. The only way for the Suns to dig out of this mess is to actually start digging out of it. And the Houston Rockets are the prime example of this, right? The Houston Rockets, yeah, they had Russell Westbrook that they got rid of for some stuff, some other ancillary stuff. This whole Rockets thing started because they traded James Harden for a ton of stuff. Because if they just keep Devin Booker and they sell off a 36-year-old Kevin Durant for some stuff, and they have Devin Booker sitting there, they're not going to go anywhere. They're just going to continue to spin their wheels and be stuck in this position. That's why I'm saying, to me, it's a blessing that they didn't get Jimmy Butler. They didn't get any of these guys. And they need to sit there and figure out that the only way for them to actually get anywhere is to tear this thing down and start over. And it'd be the best thing for Devin Booker, be the best thing for the Suns, and it's the only way that this thing is ever going to go anywhere.
Well, that analysis is fine by both of you. I'm just telling you, Devin Booker, that I know, wants to be a Phoenix Sun for his whole career.
Well, it's not. Devin Booker doesn't have a no-trade clause. Bradley Beal does. That's part of the problem they have.
Luka Doncic wanted to be a Dallas Maverick his whole career, and I'm not saying that the Mavericks made the right call, but I'm just saying, unless you're Kyle Kuzma, if you don't have a no-trade clause, you can't veto a deal.
All right. Well, anyway, we're not going to do circular. The Suns had a bad deadline, and they put so much work into trading Bradley Beal. I don't think they were ever close. I think there was a couple of teams that didn't hang up the phone immediately, and they tried a little bit, and then they just got to the point where they're like, we can't.
Well, look, and let's also point out the Suns made a ridiculous trade, trading this 2031 first round pick for 3 bad first round picks. And then, by the way, traded a 2026 first round pick today to get rid of Yusuf Nurkic and locked up half their drafts again. Like there just has not been a coherent vision and plan from the beginning.
The thing about if they had a Butler trade in place,
right,
where swapping the 31 pick out for the 3 first made it happen, then I would get it. But they made it on spec.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
when they made the deal, it was like, okay, what do they have lined up? And then when the answer was nothing, you're like, really? Because that 2031 pick is of significant value because people are forecasting this gloom and doom if they don't blow it up and rebuild.
I talked to one team today that didn't hang up the phone immediately on Beal. And now that everything's done, you get these debriefs. And I was like, well, tell me what your thought process was there. They go, we looked at it because we thought it made some sense, but the pick offering was just so poor. We just said to them, because is there a way you could improve this? And they really couldn't. And, I was, without revealing who I was talking to, I'm not sure if the Suns had even traded Ryan Dunn, that they could have gotten a package together to get someone to take Bradley Beal.
And that's Bradley Beal's got the worst contract in the league.
So they went through that whole thing. They reached the dead end there. And really what you had teams hedging on each other. You had Golden State was hedging because they were trying to get Durant out of one side of their mouth and trying to get Butler out of the other side of their mouth. And they were hedging both.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a while, they were trying to get Butler to get Durant. You had Miami, who liked what Golden State was doing, but Golden State was only going so fast because they were trying to do a Durant deal. And then they were also talking to Phoenix, thinking that maybe they could move Beal and they could get stuff there. So they're sort of hedging on both deals. And then you had Phoenix, who liked the idea of getting Jimmy Butler and stuff from the Warriors. Jimmy Butler plus is what I've been calling it.
Yeah.
But they also thought there was a possibility that they could move Beal and they could have Butler and Durant. So everybody was hedging. And so somebody was going to lose. And the loser ended up being the Suns in that.
And now you're stuck with Kevin Durant, who is disgruntled, and rightfully so. A superstar of that caliber, that's the whole reason the Mavericks kept their trade talks with Luka completely quiet is because if it didn't work out, you don't want to deal with it. Well, that's at least a part of the reason. Now you've got Kevin Durant, and you tried to trade Beal for the last however many months. You tried to trade Durant for the last whatever week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it was. And what are they going to do the rest of the season for this team that's now 500 after losing 4 of the last 5? They're going to be thinking about, where the hell am I going to try to get this summer? I mean, the only thing they did to improve really bad vibes is dump the mountain that was moping on the end of the bench. But dude, that's nothing in comparison to, 2 of your 3 stars that are, have a right to be pretty pissed off.
Well, and by the way, we've talked a lot about how much we respect the way Devin Booker goes about his business, right? All the way through. Like he's been in Phoenix the whole time. He's obviously been an Olympian, won gold medals, been in the finals, shows up, does his job, exemplary pro all the way around, right? A couple of years ago, he's on a team that's in the finals, has Mikal Bridges there, seems like it's got a runway to be a long-term contender, and he's a guy that's going to be there, like you said, MacMahon, like all these guys who've been on a team for 10, 15 years and going to be on a consistent contender. And he has sat there and done his job while the whole thing has been immolated around him. It is crazy to talk about trading a guy like Devin Booker when he wants to be on the team. But there is no other path out of this mess for the Suns. They can't do anything with this team. They are totally stuck. It's just a complete mess.
I keep going back to the Rockets, but Tillman Fertitta had new owner syndrome. And he took over a team. The year that he bought the team was the year they won 60 whatever games, won a hamstring away, lost to the Warriors after Chris Paul pulled his hammy, a hell of a series. The next year, it was the bad vibes, and Chris Paul's the worst contract Tillman had ever seen in business or sports. We're going to fix this, and quick fix, blew up in their face, and he got humbled and he got the hell out of the way. Ishbia needs to be humbled and get the hell out of the way and let basketball people run basketball operations, not somebody who sat at the end of the bench. You don't learn how to run an NBA freaking front office sitting on the end of the bench, no matter how good the team was in college.
All right. Well, more to come on that in the coming months. But next, let's check out today's magic moment brought to you by State Farm. The magic moment when the Charlotte Hornets phone rang and Rob Pelinka said, "We want Mark Williams, boys."
Yeah.
I don't think he was available, but the offer that they got, they couldn't say no to. And
the Hornets set a price, which was give us all the stuff Nico Harrison didn't get in the trade, and other than Austin Reeves. And Rob Pelinka said, "Sure, I'll give you all the stuff other than Austin Reeves in the trade." And look, I was driving home from the game in Philadelphia on Wednesday, and I started getting messages about the Hornets trade. And I thought I was like, wait, do you mean the Pelicans trade? We'll talk about the Brandon Ingram trade later, but I thought people were texting me about that. And then I was like, wait a second. Then I got a phone call. I was like, wait a second. This is what's happening. This is a completely off the board deal. And look, I mean, Charlotte, I think, has done a remarkable job. We've talked about them before the last couple of years. They've done a great job of consistently getting strong asset returns and trades. Mark Williams has missed 60% of the games that he's been eligible to play in. He is a mountain of a human. He is going to be a big lob threat for Luka. He's going to throw down some massive dunks. He's also got some extraordinarily questionable defensive metrics. Some of his rim protection numbers are really bad, and he's going to be asked to be the anchor of a defense where right now you're talking about him being out there with Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James in front of him, all of whom not exactly defensive stalwarts. So that was a heck of a price to pay for a team that's far from a finished product and a guy that, while talented, has some real question marks about his game.
It was a big price to pay. I think if you're looking at it from the Lakers standpoint, you've got to look at it as part of the Luka trade, right? As you said, the pick, the swap, Dalton Connect, those are pieces that, frankly, you can argue the Mavericks should have received in that deal. And if you're going to have Luka, you got to give him a lob threat. I mean, he will maximize whatever lob threat he has. And I'm sure that the first thing he mentioned when they're talking about roster construction.
I hope they already knew.
Yes,
I saw some people like Luka came in and said, "I need a center." Oh, really? Somebody write that down. Oh, okay, good.
But like he lobbied for that for years and years and years.
That's true.
In Dallas, and they finally went out and got him 2 last year, one in Lively in the draft and then at the deadline Gafford. But he's the best. He's the best pick and roll operator in the league. He's the like I said, whatever lob threat he has, he's going to absolutely maximize. So if this is they've essentially entered a 1.5 year long sales pitch to Luka, right? Because we've talked about this. They don't have the advantage that the Mavericks had of the Supermax to certainly keep him happy. I guess he can, it could be a half season sales pitch even because he can extend as soon as this summer. And when Luka says, "Hey, yeah, Luka Doncic, give me the best lob threat you can find," and they go out and get it done like that, it's a pretty good way to start off the partnership. Now, Williams has a lot of potential, and as you noted, Bontemps, there are reasons for concerns, the health being number one. And I don't know, man, one thing I did learn from last year is not to overrate awful defensive analytics on a terrible defensive team. PJ Washington came off that same Hornets team. His defensive metrics were god awful. And he came to Dallas and was a major part of their defensive turnaround. So I'm just saying,
no,
atmosphere can influence all that stuff.
100%. Numbers can change, but it's, he is a really interesting talent that is far from a finished product and is now being put in a position where he is the cornerstone partner with Luka Doncic. That is if they had gotten Walker Kessler, I'm not saying Walker Kessler was available, but we've seen Walker Kessler put up massive defensive numbers, right? You could confidently say Walker Kessler could catch a lob and also be a true anchor of a defense. We have not seen that yet for Mark Williams. He may do that. He may get to LA and JJ Redick, who's known him since Duke, might be able to get him playing in a much different way. And this could all look great. He is at least a young, exciting talent, but it was a heck of a swing for a Laker team that doesn't have a lot of swings to make. And as you said, they've got somewhere between 6 and 18 months, depending on when or if they get Luka to sign an extension, to show him, hey, we could build a team that's going to fit around you. And while, getting a lob threat helps, it's got to be a lob threat that leads to winning games. And let's see what happens with that.
Yeah, well, they're also going to have to extend him this summer. Did you mention that? I'm sorry if you did.
I didn't mention that, but yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about the summer of 26, right? When all these guys are going to be available. Luka Doncic could be a free agent then, for example, and Mark Williams will be a restricted free agent that summer. And it makes an interesting situation for the Lakers, who just traded for this guy and in theory are invested quite a bit in him. But it might be better for them to wait and have a lower cap hold in that summer if they want to try to get in free agency, which I suspect they might.
Yeah, they can extend in the summer. They don't have to.
He could sign a rookie extension that would kick in the following summer. That's what Brian meant, to be clear.
Speaking of summer of 26, I'm not going to focus much on this Clippers trade that they did today. The Clippers traded Terrence Mann for Bogdanovich. But when the Clippers did the offer to Paul George, they wanted to be out of the money by 26. And then when they let him go, that was part of the reason, was because they wanted to have their books clean up in 26.
Mm-hmm.
The Clippers have now made a second move where because Terrence Mann, his contract goes, I think, for 4 years. And
Correct.
Bogdanovich goes for one more. And so one more, he's next year. And so just want to point out real quick, we're way, way, way ahead of ourselves. But if you look at some of the other moves that they've made, like they signed James Harden, his contract is up in 26.
Actually, could be up this summer.
Well, he signed a 1+1.
Right. But, Norman Powell, contract up in 26. They could extend him. I'm just saying.
There's a lot of teams that have eyed that summer. It's not just one, but something to watch.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see how that works out. I'm looking forward to Luka. ESPN moved heaven and earth, or maybe not earth, maybe not heaven, whatever it was. ESPN made a lot of moves to get the Lakers game scrambled to be put on the air at 4 o'clock Eastern on Saturday, and then Luka's not going to play.
Hey, he's ducking Rick Carlisle
because they're playing. That was a Pacers game. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We saw the Jazz up next and said they don't want to win. That'd be a good one to start out against.
I am looking forward to seeing Luka play with LeBron and Mark Williams. So
it'd be entertaining as hell.
Speaking of Luka, you've been with the Mavs the last couple of days, Bontemps. You were with them in Philly. And then you went up to Boston with them tonight where they had a really good win. You described a little bit of what it's like around there, but they're in a weird zone right now. I'm not sure I've ever seen a team imagine the anger at what happened when LeBron left, but the anger was directed at LeBron.
Yeah.
And it was in the off season.
Right. That's a good comparison to what I was going to say. I was talking to some people about this today, and the crazy thing about this Luka Doncic situation is exactly what you just said, when there have been these really acrimonious divorces in the past in sports, almost all of them are driven by the player. It's LeBron choosing to go to Miami.
Durant.
It's Shaquille O'Neal choosing to go to the Lakers. It's Kevin Durant choosing to go to the Warriors. It's a guy saying, I've been with the team for a long time, but you know what? I'm ready for something else. Or he asked for a trade, or there's some trigger where the hometown fans are upset at the player for leaving. There's very few instances where there is this kind of venom and vitriol over a trade.
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
So the only one that I can think of for sure is when the Mets traded Tom Seaver, which nobody listening to this podcast can remember.
I'm talking NBA wise.
Right, NBA wise, these kind of guys don't get traded like this. But Tom Seaver wanted to stay with the Mets. He got traded because the GM wanted to trade him and got mad when he went to the owner and negotiated a contract. They traded him in the middle of the night, and the fan base completely freaked out. The team cratered. The GM got fired. Shea Stadium became nicknamed Grant's Tomb. Like, the whole thing turned into a potential, we'll see what happens with the Mavs over the next few years. But they trade Tom Seaver, everything goes to hell, and the fan base completely revolts on him. The only other things I could think of that compared to this, in talking with a couple people today, was when, like, the Baltimore Colts moved to Indianapolis and the Cleveland Browns moved to Baltimore, and it was like...
Yeah, but again, that didn't... Okay, the Browns moving to Baltimore was interesting because, okay, that's a good comparison because it happened, I know, but it happened in the season. That's the key, is it happened in the season. The Browns, I went to one of the games where they were lame duck, where, you know, and the game was secondary to the message that was being sent to ownership. Like, and so that's actually a very good comparison. They played against the Packers. Young Brett Favre killed them. Nobody cared about the game. So that makes me wonder, MacMahon, what you're walking into on Saturday. The game is, and what Anthony Davis does is like,
and it's Anthony Davis's debut in a Dallas uniform. That is such a secondary story. Like, there are these massive, there's like this big protest planned. There's going to be, I promise you, a ton of extra security. I would not look for Nico Harrison in his normal seat in like the third or fourth row. I can assure you of that. There's been some very unfortunate, listen, I understand fan anger. That's within your rights. It's gone way, way, way too far in too many instances of like potential criminal type of stuff. Not potential, it could easily be criminal type of stuff.
Well, there's some vandalism at the arena. That's criminal, right? Like that went down.
Much more serious than that, at least in terms of, a lot
more serious than vandalism.
In terms of
not great.
It's
not great stuff.
And just stuff that's way out of line. And, you know, if fans want to be mad at Nico Harrison, hey, you're within your rights. Like, he traded the face of your franchise, the guy you thought you were going to have for years and years to come, and just took you to the finals. He did it in the middle of the night. And, hey, he kind of shanked him on the way out, if we're going to be completely blunt about it. I get the anger, but it's got a potential to be a real toxic atmosphere.
Do you think Luka could say something to would that help, do you think?
It's not his job.
It's not his job.
Well, I'm not saying it is.
But I don't think it's up to him to say, Dallas fans, you need to chill. That's not a realistic expectation.
I mean, it's a hypothetical that ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt, but I don't know if it helps. Like, he's still, like, Luka saying it's not going to put number 77 back in a blue.
It's not going to stop any of the anger. The crazy thing about this, like, from being around this team the last couple of days, like Tuesday night, the Mavericks lose to the Sixers. Kyrie Irving hadn't talked about this trade yet. He talked for 10 minutes. I know it's a regular season basketball game, but they lost on a one-possession game where they completely messed up the final possession. Didn't even get a shot off, basically, and lost, right? And it's not like the Mavericks are in a position where they can just give away games right now. Kyrie talked for 10 minutes. The game was, no one even considered asking him about the game. Yeah. Anthony Davis was acquired by the Dallas Mavericks. Anthony Davis is one of the 75 best players in the history of basketball. is having probably the best
he's in his
season
prime,
of his
still
career.
in his prime. Yeah.
Yes, he's probably having the best season of his career. He is an awesome player. And Anthony Davis comes over to do media on Tuesday in Philadelphia, and Kyrie Irving is joking to the media saying, take it easy on him. Like they got a all NBA star player back in a trade, the kind of guy that when he shows up, people are usually like, oh man, Anthony Davis on our team. This is awesome. And instead, he's walking into a funeral. It is the weirdest, most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Literally, there was a casket at the protest the day after, at the arena the day after the trade. What a casket! I mean, it's going to be nuts, dude. I fly in from Oklahoma City tonight, and I'm waiting to get my bags. 2 of them, Wendy. Didn't even bring that many shoes, but not 9-night trip. So I got waiting for my 2 bags.
Just keep those toes covered.
And Jackson, I'll send you the pictures here, but there's a screen above the baggage claim, and
welcome home, Tim MacMahon. Is that what it says?
No, that certainly was not that. Hashtag M77L, a playoff MFFL, Mavs fan for life, but it's 77 with the Mavericks logo, the Choctaw Casino, and then it flashes to another screen. Thanks for always going all in, 77. It's like one of the first things you see when you fly to DFW. Like, there has not been this kind of venom and anger and disgust and heartbreak in Dallas sports since egos caused the divorce of Jimmy and Jerry. And again, the similarity there is they weren't mad at Jimmy. They weren't mad at the guy who had brought them so much joy and success. You know, Luka didn't win championships, but man, the accomplishments, dude, 73-point game, you know, triple doubles, a 60-point triple double, finals run.
That playoff run last year was so special for Dallas. It was a little bit unexpected,
and it just happened.
Right.
It just happened.
They're still basking. Like, imagine if LeBron, like I remember LeBron in 2007, he makes that playoff run. They get swept. You know, it's disappointing. But like, imagine if LeBron was traded like a few months later.
We've never seen a trade like this. No, never seen this kind of talent traded at 25 years old when he was shocked by it and the guy was about to buy another house. You know, I mean,
he was fifth in the straw poll. He was fifth in the straw poll, even after a rough start to the season. He was fifth in the straw poll 6 weeks ago.
But again, we haven't seen this level of just fan vitriol here since the Jimmy Jerry thing. And that was all targeted at Jerry. They're so mad at the Mavericks and frankly, at Nico specifically. I don't believe Nico acted alone. I do not believe that. But he's the one who's, you know, I don't want to go that metaphor. He's the one who's taking the heat. They're so mad at him that Jerry Jones just made a tremendously unpopular coaching hire. And it's like almost like forgot we'll be pissed about that again after the Mavs are eliminated. You know.
I also want to read a quote from. I want to read 2 quotes from today because again, this trade happened 6 days ago, right? It's not like the trade happened yesterday. Spencer Dinwiddie got asked this morning about the fan base's reaction to Luka getting traded. Quote, "It's completely understandable. It shows what Luka meant to the community. It shows how much the fan base loves him and still loves him. I think for a fan base that had Dirk for 20 years and seemingly right when Dirk was about to retire, they got Dirk 2.0 in a sense. It's understandable. Nobody is mad at the Dallas fans for their reaction. With something that's emotional, you have to give it a chance to process and feel and live in that moment." And then Klay Thompson got asked about this game on Saturday and asked what the atmosphere was going to be like. Quote, "It's probably going to be a lot of heartbreak amongst the fans, probably some boos. But as a professional, you have to embrace everything, and we're paid to play this game and perform at the highest level. I don't know what to expect. I know Luka was so dear to every Mavs fan's heart. We've just got to win and do it on a consistent basis and give ourselves a chance to win the whole thing. And I think that will ease all of the fans' pain and anger. It's going to be weird, but that's what we sign up for." These guys are talking like they're going on the road for a game. This is the weirdest story I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like this.
I think it'll be more hostile than any road game, certainly in the regular season, that they
occasionally in European soccer. because even though those teams have owners, they're very much more seen as public trusts. And so occasionally you will see like a backlash against the board or the chairman or the owner or whatever. And there will be a game where all of the fans will use the game they'll forget about the game itself, and they'll use the entire game as an opportunity to send a message to ownership. By the way, those messages are often very powerful and tend to work. In this case, it's not something we're used to seeing in America, and I don't think it can do anything. It's all symbolic. So I don't know how long it'll last.
About the backlash, they literally are giving refunds to people who cancel season tickets. And what's happened here is there's a lot of people who have been Mavs fans since they were kids, that once this went down, they decided they're bigger fans of Luka than they are of the Mavericks. And as much as, like if you're a Mavericks fan, if you're basically any team's fan other than a Lakers fan, you despise the Lakers. They're the Yankees or the Cowboys, Notre Dame, whatever. You either love them or you hate them. All these people who've hated the Lakers are now like, damn, I guess, are we Lakers fans now? Like, what's happening here?
It's just such a weird, it's just such a bizarre existence for the Mavs to be in it. And like, I don't really know how long it's going to be like this. I don't think they're going to go home and play one game and this is just going to go away. Like, I think it'll go away eventually.
My God, what happens if Luka on Monday? What happens if he puts up like 48 points?
Well, he's going to. They're playing the Jazz. He's going to have a huge game. This is what I was going to ask you, MacMahon. Because I don't really know the answer. Like, is Anthony Davis going to get booed?
I don't think so.
I think that would be very strange if he did, but I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. That's going to be interesting. I don't think
it's his
anybody's
fault.
mad at Anthony Davis.
Right.
But it's like
and again, we're talking about the Mavs traded for Anthony Davis, and the guy might get booed for getting traded to a team. None of this makes any sense.
He might get booed because he represents trade. I don't think there's any venom directed towards.
Oh, I mean,
Anthony
that would be
Davis,
insane.
Obviously. I think he will get booed.
I just can't wrap my head around this story. Like it really feels like a team getting ripped away from a city, but the team is still there.
Yeah,
I can't. And all these players are acting like it's just crazy.
Conspiracy theories that this is all because the Texas gambling stuff. They're trying to get the laws changed and going well. They're trying to take the team to Vegas. Like, dude, that's not happening.
I mean,
the NBA is not having a team move from Dallas to Las Vegas.
I will not entertain any of this conspiracy BS.
The stuff that I've reported is the reasoning, people. I understand you're shocked. I understand you think it's completely ridiculous. The Mavericks decided they didn't want to be in the Luka Doncic business because they didn't believe in him, because they didn't think he was ever going to change his habits. They thought the condition was always going to be a problem, and they believed that his body's going to break down, and they didn't want to pay him $350 million. We can go around and around and discuss all the different routes they could have taken, even if they're right about all those things, the ways they could have gotten more on the return,
of course,
the timeline. But those are the reasons.
That's right. They made their choice and they are now living with it. And it is just the most bizarre. I haven't been around it the last couple of days. I wish I was going to be at this game on Saturday because I feel like it's going to be a once in a lifetime deal. I really can't even imagine what it's going to be like because I have never seen a team that's reacted like this to a trade.
I'm not sure I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, we'll talk more about that. Hang in there, MacMahon. There was a trade that happened late Wednesday night that we didn't get a chance to talk about. It was a significant trade, and I think it's going to result in a 9-figure contract, and that's Brandon Ingram, who'd been available for weeks, months, going to Toronto. This is a strange trade. The Raptors are supposed to be tanking. It was a smart move to tank. They traded away Siakam and OG Anunoby last year. They had some injury problems this year, but they were absolutely losing like crazy. They were right in position to be a primary in the top 3 for the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. And then they start winning recently. Had some wins. They got a little healthier. And Scotty Barnes started playing really well, and they got some wins. And then they went and traded for Brandon Ingram. And I don't know, is the contract done yet, Bontemps? I heard the contract figures, like what they're negotiating, but I don't
I
want to
don't
say
know
it
if
if it's
I don't
not
know.
done.
I don't know if an extension is done. What I will say is, Brandon Ingram was available to be traded for a long time and was not traded for a long time, and now he's been traded to a team that sent a first round pick out to acquire him. And Masai Ujiri sent a very praiseful message out with the release announcing the trade, and I would be very surprised if Brandon Ingram is not extended by the Raptors.
It sounds like they're going to do a multi-year deal that is worth 9 figures. I'll just leave it at that without getting too aggregated.
I covered the historic night of Brandon Ingram's last appearance in a Pelicans uniform.
When he sprained his ankle?
When he sprained his ankle, against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Well, look,
been out a long time with that sprained ankle.
Well, listen,
the Thunder. That's what I'm saying. Is that is he going to be ready to roll? Or
wasn't it amazing if he signed that contract and came blasting out and scored 37?
Well, listen, you said
maybe the rest of the season will recover and they can get back in that Cooper Flag derby.
Good point.
So, Brian, you said the Raptors are trying to tank, right? So I think if you go back and look at how this has all played out, for a couple of years before they traded Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby and Fred VanVleet left in free agency, there was kind of this will they, won't they thing with Masai Ujiri and the Raptors, or are they going to move on from the remnants of the title team, right? They'd slowly traded some of the guys, and then they eventually finally pulled the plug last year. They trade OG Anunoby for a package including Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. They trade Pascal Siakam for a bunch of first-round picks. They take one of those picks now, trade him for Brandon Ingram. They have Grady Dick, who they drafted in the lottery. They've got Scotty Barnes, who obviously they just gave a max contract to. They're going to have a top pick in this year's draft. And I think the plan for the Raptors is you've got Scotty Barnes, you've got Emmanuel Quickley, you've got Grady Dick and RJ Barrett. You have Jakob Poeltl signed on a multi-year deal. They really like him as their center. Now they get Brandon Ingram. They're going to sign him. They're going to draft this guy in the top 5 to 10 in the draft. That's their rebuild. That's their team. They clearly believe that Scotty Barnes and whoever they get in this draft are going to be good enough to be the guys on the next really good Raptors team. So by doing this trade and getting Brandon Ingram, clearly Masai Ujiri is betting on Brandon Ingram. Like I said, he put out a very strong pro Brandon Ingram statement announcing the trade. And it's a big bet on Scotty Barnes being able to become a top 10 or 15 player in the league and a guy that's good enough to be on that kind of team, lead that
in a vacuum. The Raptors have never been able to be a free agent destination. I guess they, whatever. This was a free agent move, really. They acquire
100%.
They acquire his rights and they're going to sign him. So they see an opportunity to get a high level player. I get that, but they shouldn't necessarily be doing free agency now anyway, even if they were a high.
Why not? Why not?
Because of the tank stuff?
I'm not sure that this team is good enough. I'm not sure that you should be proud of that rebuild. Now, if they get Cooper Flag,
but again, that's what I'm saying. They have said from the moment they traded OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam about a year ago now, right? They made it clear this was not going to be a 3 or 4 year awful, be bad 3 or 4 years in a row thing. Now you can argue whether they should do that or not.
Everybody says that.
Well, okay, but the Raptors, actions over words. The actions of the Raptors were they traded OG Anunoby for Emmanuel Quickley. They gave him $170 million, right? They treated him like a guy they think is a high-level starter at the point. They have Scotty Barnes, who they drafted 4th overall. They gave him a max contract. They clearly think he's going to be a perennial all-star kind of player. They now signed Brandon Ingram. They're going to give him a bunch of money. They clearly think he's a guy that can lead them back to being a playoff level team. And they're going to end up with a high pick in this year's draft, whoever it is. And they're going to believe that guy could be a guy that is a high level player down the road. And that Scotty Barnes in this year's draft pick, those are going to be their 2 high level swings. Like that, whether it works or not is one thing, but that's pretty clearly through their actions what the Raptors are going to do. And they're going to put their foot down starting this summer. And I think next year, the expectation should be that Toronto's going to be in the playoffs. That's what they're projecting, that they're going to be in the top 8 in the East.
Well, it's not, considering there's 3 or 4 teams that are in just the same boat as them, basically. It's not as hard to get to the top 8 in the East. So,
well, but that's if you're doing this Brandon Ingram thing, you're not doing it to be a 25-win team next year in theory. Like, they're going to be brushing up against the luxury tax.
I mean, okay, then they could have done it in the summer and not.
Well, but they already have all these contracts on their books, and they couldn't sign him as a free agent. That's why they did it.
No,
now.
they could have signed and trade. And that's.
But they traded Bruce Brown, who's an expiring contract. Like that's
true.
They
right.
had to do it now, which is why they went and got him now.
That's true. You're right. Okay.
Months.
Yeah. All right. There was one of the significant moves of actual deadline day that happened today was the Cleveland Cavs acquiring DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks. They sent Karis LeVert, who's having a great year. Also, DeAndre Hunter is having. Karis LeVert is, if he's not having the best year of his career, he had some good years when he was a starter. He's having one of the best years of the bench players in the East. And DeAndre Hunter is having the best year of his career for the Hawks. The Cavs sent three second-round picks, Karis LeVert, George Niang, and a couple of pick swaps. The
G-Wagon, baby. Got to pack up
the G-Wagon. The G-Wagon heading for I-75 South. The pick swaps are swaps on swaps, which
swaps on swaps in the second round. Wow.
No, the first round.
Oh, they're first round. My bad.
They're the Cavs have already swapped those picks with Utah.
Yeah.
So they give after they swap it with Utah, they give Atlanta the opportunity to then re-swap.
So they're basically getting swaps with Utah is essentially what they did. The Hawks can get Utah's picks.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Utah's draft position. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
not probably a ton of value in those at this time.
2028, who knows? Who knows where things are? But anyway, this is the Cavs recognizing that they think they've got a chance to win the whole thing. They think they need size in the perimeter. Hunter, I believe, is listed at 6'8". He is
and like a big, strong 6'8".
Yeah, and he's one of these guys who has all the physical tools, but doesn't rebound as well as you think he should, despite his physicality. Doesn't generate steals like you think he should.
No, he does one thing. He shoots. And he's had a great shooting season.
He guards too.
He doesn't do a lot of guarding. He's had a great shooting season. But this is a fascinating deal on a variety of fronts. First off, I give the Cavs a lot of credit for making the deal, whether it works out or not, because they're 41-10. It would be extraordinarily easy to just say, hey, we've got a great team. We're not going to rock the boat. We're not going to do anything with this group. We're just going to ride it out and see how it is. But we have talked the whole season about how the Cavs are pretty light in size on the perimeter, and in taking Karis LeVert and turning him into DeAndre Hunter, they are getting a guy who's a legitimate 3, who is shooting 39% from 3 this year on almost 7 attempts a game. Quinn Snyder has really cleaned up his shot chart. He was taking a lot more mid-range jumpers in the past. He's taking a ton of threes.
Not a pretty toes guy. Needs to get behind that 3-point arc.
Yes. This is just never going to stop. But
please don't. I want to keep it going.
He's averaging 19 a game. He's had a great year for the Hawks. But he is a guy who has had a ton of injury concerns over time. He's played over 60 games in his career twice. He's on pace to play 59 this year. And he is an iffy defender. But look, he gives them some positional size on the wing. He does give them a knockdown shooter with size, which will help. And again,
the reason he was a 4th overall pick was because he had big time defensive potential. So if he defender or whatever, he has potential to be an impact.
I agree. Player. I agree. Look, I mean, he has more defensive potential than Karis LeVert, and he's bigger than Karis LeVert, and that's why they made the trade, because they're going to be playing teams like the Knicks with OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and the Celtics with with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and maybe the Oklahoma City Thunder with Jalen Williams and these other big, big physical wings there. And they needed more size on the wing. And like I said, I give the Cavs a lot of credit for doing this trade because they didn't need to do it. Nobody would have said boo if the Cavs did nothing today and rode this out, maybe made a small move to get under the tax and said, hey, we love our team. We're just going to see how it goes. This is a gutsy swing to change the makeup of the locker room, to make an addition, take on some future money. It's a very, very interesting trade.
So the interesting thing is the Cavs had sort of three assets that were attractive in trade. One was Karis LeVert, its expiring contract. He's having a good year. Two is their rookie, Jalen Tyson, who's looked okay in some moments. He's not a guy who would have a lot of value, but he would sort of represent a first-round pick in a deal. And then they have one first-round pick that they can trade. I think it's 2030 or 2031. They got DeAndre Hunter by only trading one of those three things. And
I mean, we're just gonna diss Bang Bang like that.
Well,
he might still have the highest winning percentage of this decade.
Well, I will say this, one of the things about whatever you want to say about George Niang, he makes 40% of his threes, and the Hawks would gladly they need shooting and they'll gladly accept it.
Hey, Quinn knows what he's getting. He had him in Utah.
The Hawks had a bit of a strange day today. I mean, they make this DeAndre Hunter trade. They get back Karis LeVert and George Niang. Then they get back Terrence Mann in another deal. I honestly haven't even looked at their roster. I'm going to look at it now. I mean, they have a funky team now. That
I was talking to somebody in Atlanta today, and I go, I don't really know what your rotation is right now, and he goes, "That's okay, neither do we."
We'll figure it out.
It is a strange.
Quinn might need the red glasses to.
Well, then Sally Jesse Raphael's you can see clearly in those.
Yeah. So, the one thing that's going to happen here. I mean, this was probably already going to happen, but by taking on Hunter, the Cavs are now ticketed for the second apron because Evan Mobley's deal will come on. Extensions for Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell are coming.
They're at $202 guaranteed $1 million for 8 players. And
if you're going to be a second apron team, you better be a contender. They've got the best record in the East now. They have, and Kenny Atkinson was pretty honest about this. They've struggled against the elite teams. I was up there when the Celtics beat them recently, lost a couple times recently to
that was just like 2 days ago.
Recently. Yeah. It was recently.
Hey, it's been a long 2 days.
A long week.
Yeah, that's right. So they've and he talks about like they've really got to dig in and kind of learn from that. And I would guess that something that they dug in and learned is, hey, we need to get bigger and a little bit more athletic on the wing.
Well, by the way, they played the Celtics Tuesday. They make this trade today. Like whether there is true causation to that or not, like it's hard to look at that and say they looked at that game, had another struggle against them and said, we got to do something to beef up our perimeter rotation.
I'll say this too. Like they looked at several options. I know that they were one of the teams in talks with Memphis about Marcus Smart. Mm-hmm. Marcus Smart ended up getting kind of quasi salary dumped to Washington.
Not quasi.
I
love Marcus Smart, but that was a salary.
He got sent to Siberia. It didn't work out in Memphis.
The Cavs could have done that deal. They could have gotten Marcus Smart and the draft pick.
And frankly,
they went with Hunter instead.
Well, who's bigger, who's a better shooter, and who is having a better year, and by far, and is Marcus Smart's doing this finger thing now. I don't know, like it might linger for a while now.
Look, there's a reason why Memphis gave up a first round pick. And
you're saying on that flight to DC that finger might get aggravated. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, the middle one might get some work on the as he's leaving Memphis.
There's a reason a first went with Marcus, and there's a reason seconds went out to get DeAndre.
And listen, Marcus Smart lost his starting job to a second round draft pick who's a rookie. Now, Jalen Wells ain't your normal second round draft pick rookie. He's going to be a starter for a long, long time. But He lost his starting job.
I will say this: the Wizards acquired, I think, 2 firsts and a pick swap and a bunch of seconds. Although they traded 4 seconds, there's a bit of a there was a bit of a weird trade from Philly today, where
Well, it
Philly
wasn't. Yeah, I mean, do you want me to explain it?
quickly.
So the Wizards have a ton of seconds. They didn't have any extra firsts. The Sixers had a very cheap extra first. It's basically almost certainly going to be Oklahoma City's first in 2026. They give the Wizards that pick. They get 4 second-round picks. They get a bunch more seconds. The Wizards get extra first. The Wizards made a bunch of moves to get extra first today. They clearly wanted to get some extra first-round picks. That's the trade.
Yeah, but here's the thing about the Wizards. They got a couple of first-round picks in their dealings today, but they also wanted to get some veterans. And they got Chris Middleton and they got Marcus Smart. And they could have traded Malcolm Brogdon to Memphis, but they didn't. And from what I understand, talking to people in Washington, like they wanted to keep Malcolm Brogdon because they want veterans on their team. And I think they're a little tired of getting their asses kicked
I mean,
by 15 every game. And so
15. Boy, I saw him coming here, and that's when Clay had 21 in the first quarter, and that was all she wrote.
So I think they would like to not equal the 72, or is it 71, 72, 76ers? They need a couple more wins to do that.
Yeah,
And
they don't have to sweat whether they're going to have maximized lottery rights at this point. They got to avoid
Yes.
NBA influence.
So-
Are you still
listen, Chris Middleton-
using the Lizards on NBA 2K?
My son and I have mostly been focusing on soccer recently. We haven't transitioned to much basketball, but I told you they updated the game and Kispert has lost his Steph Curry qualities and that was really turned off by that.
And that's probably impacted his on-court performance. So you're in part responsible for this miserable season Washington's experiencing that Marcus Smart's going to help him turn around.
Yes. It's extremely frustrating that my secret weapon in that game against my son went away.
Yeah, you let him win anyway.
That is correct. You don't let your sons win. But
listen, gotta compete.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so the Cavs obviously feel like they can they can win the East, and they believe this move can help them. We'll see. Is the long and short of it. Is there anything
credit to him for doing it, though.
Is there anything?
I think it will help them.
Is there anything I'm forgetting from today, guys? I don't know. It's been a long day.
I think there should be 5 for the land and put DeAndre Hunter up on that big old banner.
You think so?
The only other deal we haven't talked about is because you mentioned Middleton, is Middleton for Kuz, and we'll talk about Kyle Kuzma in the future to see what that looks like.
Yeah, we'll see how it works in Milwaukee. All
Might
right.
be his first game for Hubie Brown's last game Sunday. Sixers Bucks in Milwaukee Sunday afternoon. Great Hubie Brown final broadcast.
Great man, Hubie Brown. All right. Thank you to Jackson for a lot
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on, compadre.
Oh,
now we gotta
sorry.
now before our guy gets launched into his whatever toe joke he makes about the Cojones Factor.
I got
the legend Mike Walczewski has created a intro for the Cojones. Look, there's the dance. I told Jackson, Walczewski, I saw him at a recent Knicks game. He said, "Oh man, hey, listen, I'm going to send you a bumper for the Cojones Factor." And I said, "You don't know how happy MacMahon is going to be that he's got his own theme music now for this thing."
No, not my own theme music. That's been banned.
Well, that's true. When you listen back to the podcast, you will hear the dulcet tones of Mike Walczewski right now.
It's now time to reveal the winner of the Cojones Factor Player of the Month with your moderator, Bad MacMahon.
3-point goal.
There you go, MacMahon.
All right. We ready for this?
Yeah.
It'll be a quickie because we're a little bit late on this. The beginning of February kind of,
a lot has happened this week. By the way, this is why I made sure that we did Cojones Factor this month, because he got me this at the beginning of January, and I was like, all right, we got to make sure we get in for February.
All right.
At the end of the month.
Yeah, so this is the January Cojones Factor Player of the Month, and there is a guy who's got some of the prettiest toes in the league, a mid-range master, is going to get the brass balls. My bad. And well, he's going to get all these clutch shots now once again because the guy who's been a clutch player of the year got shipped out of Sacramento, baby. It's DeMar DeRozan's show to close again, and for good reason, fellas. The Kings, they've been winning those close games lately, in large part because DeRozan 27 points plus 35 in 29 clutch minutes last week. Brass balls for DeMar DeRozan. You know what? My research has been a little bit sloppy here. I forgot to I had this looked up. I got like 1,000,006 windows open, but did you guys see Trae Young's 49-foot game winner?
I sure did, and he gave it the old ice, the ice
Yeah.
tray maneuver.
The ice tray, although the ice does have could have a shriveling impact. Oh man, I did. What have I done? I had the longest buzzer beaters dialed up, and I
Darius Garland hit a 31 footer in Cavs corner to beat the Pistons.
We mentioned that.
The Cojones Factor reasoning changes from month to month. There's different criteria in every time.
It's clutch and swag.
Now we're talking about hitting 50 footers.
No, this is clutch and swag, and I can't believe. Oh, here we go. Where does it rank? Okay.
What?
Little
You
trivia
sound like a
question.
grandfather right now.
I know,
Where is my stuff in here? I can't find it.
Because I closed a bunch of windows because I looked and it was like, you have 96 windows open. I'm like, Jesus. And then honestly, probably 22 of them were basketball reference. I'm like, okay, I love basketballreference.com. 22 basketball reference windows is probably just a little.
No wonder the site's been running slow.
This is such a gong show. I tried to open a page today and it didn't work.
Listen,
I
the
don't know why.
longest buzzer beater in NBA history. Anybody? It's recent.
I have no idea.
It's recent. Devontae Graham hit a 61-footer.
Oh yeah, right, against the
second longest. Yeah. This one is much more.
What about Max? Didn't Max Strus hit like a 7? Okay.
Yeah, against the Cavs. That's
right in Tim Hardaway Jr.'s face last year over the Mavericks. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, 55 feet.
Oh.
Dr. J, another one against the Mavericks, 53 feet. Tyreek Evans, 50. And then you got Trae Young at 49 feet.
So because he had the 8th longest one ever, he gets the silver, the brass.
Well, he also had 20 points on 10 field goals and 13 nut cut minutes. That was pretty big. But yeah, dude, you hit a 49.
13 minutes in the entire month?
Nut cutting.
No, in nut cutting.
Yeah. Just final 3 within a bucket. But yeah, you hit a 49-footer, you're going to be a pretty damn at the buzzer, a 49-foot buzzer, but you're going to be.
I'll tell you something. Trae got snubbed for the All-Star game. He's had a bunch of clutch baskets. You can say a lot of stuff about Trae Young. He is not afraid.
Yeah, you can't question the size of those cojones. So he was the silver medalist here. The gold medal winner. It's going to be, this guy's going to win a lot of awards in his career, but this will always be one of the best for him. You guys know I've had a fondness for this fella for some time. Hold on, man.
Tall. Oh.
Yeah, he's tall. He's also really, really good. Listen, man, Amin Thompson, to hit the game winner in Boston the way that he did, where Jaylen Brown is still looking for his jockstrap because he just kind of snatched it back, winning that little floater. Boom.
Also, Ime Udoka calls that play out of the timeout for the rookie.
Yes. Well, second-year guy, but yes.
Oh, you're right. For the young guy, he makes it, and Ime strides, just sort of gets his victory, sniffs, and strides off the court. It was he was reveling in that moment.
The other thing is,
I don't think they've won since, by the way, but it was great.
Well, I don't know if it's a bold statement or not, but Amin Thompson is their best player, and he needs to be a permanent member of the starting lineup, no matter who is healthy.
Well, we've said that
Well, I know, but it's just he's ascended in the last.
What was your bold statement?
No, I think he's unquestionably now their best player.
Well, I think it's going to be hot in Texas this summer.
Okay. I said I don't know if it's a bold statement or not. That's why I was asking. I was seeing what your opinion was as the Rockets expert. Clearly, you agree.
I would agree with that, and there are prominent people in Houston who would agree with that. The other thing that I really loved about that, Amin, first and foremost, is a defensive stopper. He had just given up a bucket. I don't remember if it was Brown or Tatum, but one of those guys had just been able to drive and finish over him. And anytime Amin gives up a bucket, like he has to deal with the sneer and the stare, and probably during a timeout, some words from Ime Udoka, because as Rafael Stone told me, in Ime's mind, Amin should never get scored on. So the way
Ime Udoka is probably the most aggressive coach in the league at instantaneous accountability during timeouts.
Yes. So the way that he responds to that, Ime is like, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually said, "Hey, you owe me one. I'm putting the ball in your hands. Go make something happen." And he did. He also 13 points, 20 nut-cut minutes. He makes plays all over the place.
This might be his greatest honor thus far.
So far, like I said, he's going to win a lot of them, but this is going to rank up there pretty high forever. The gold medalist for the January Cojones Factor Player.
It's a special place in your heart. That's right. All right. Special thank you to Jackson, our producer, for doing a lot of extra work this week with the extra emergency pods and whatnot. Thank you.
Jackson's the best.
Thank you very much for listening to them. And it's a tough week for all of us. 3 o'clock wake ups for me to go and get up. Bontemps is.
Our lives are fine. We're not gonna. We're not gonna whine
baby.
about,
I like it.
We're not gonna whine about how hard our lives are.
I'm not whining about. Am I whining? I'm not whining.
You said it's a tough week. It's not a tough week. It
is a tough week. Anyway.
Shut up, Bontemps.
And MacMahon's traveled all over the place, giving us a lot of extra coverage. Bontemps has traveled all over the place. So thanks for the reason. I mean, I don't want to get all sappy here. I am sleep deprived, but the reason we do it, is because we love the connection we have with you guys, and so we thank you for listening to us during the trade deadline season. And I look forward to not talking about trades starting tomorrow.
The reason I'm doing it is because I'm on a contract year, and I got 1 kid in college now and 3 more on the way. I ain't sappy about nothing. I'm trying to get paid.
Man wants to be 10 toes down with new contract.
I'm trying to get paid. Hey, pre-order the Wonder Boy. I've got to scramble to write a final chapter next week.
I love the final. I love the final.
Just throw in a random plug.
All right, here comes one more plug.
Man is 10 toes down wherever he'll get paid. Offers are open.
Here's one more plug. Thanks for watching the Hoop Collective, presented by State Farm. We'll talk to you next week.
Adios, amigos.